try to go to Gantiep, and my host, with whom I went out yesterday, offered me to have breakfast. So we're gonna have soup for breakfast, and he's trying to call the shop. Soup? Very
Thank you.
you, chef.
Yes, chef. Babam naging professor
So the next morning, the bike had miraculously decided to move from 5 to 4th gear, but that was it. So the guys made it very clear that I shouldn't be riding this bike in those conditions. But it was pretty dangerous, but honestly I didn't really have a choice. And the bike still worked, and it was just gonna be a challenge according to what kinds of roads I'd find the day after. The ride was a total nerve-wrecker. My engine was leaking oil constantly and my left boot was completely soaked. I spent 3 hours playing a dangerous game with the clutch, trying not to stall in every turn while leaving a trail of oil behind me. I tried to focus on the landscape to keep my head straight, but the stress was very heavy. When I finally limped into the garage in Gaziantep, the vibe changed instantly. These guys were pros. The master mechanic took charge of the bike immediately, but even for him the problem was unknown. Everything changed when we started to talk. I mentioned the fault I had a month ago, back before my trip in Norway. So he pulled out the gear selector mechanism, studied it, and compared it to the technical specs. He even realized something was bent just enough to jam the whole system. So he went to a friend's shop to heat the piece of metal and bend it back into shape. Then he put the engine back together one more time. It was, I think, like about 5 hours after I broke my bike. He tried it outside and miracle. The gears were clicking through perfectly.
Bye-bye.
The master mechanic was a legend, honestly.
Yes.
He saw how much I was struggling and dropped everything to save my trip. Even now he still texts me sometimes to check if the bike is running okay. I was exhausted. I hadn't eaten all day and the stress had completely drained me. But that was probably the biggest relief of the entire trip. So after that emotional roller coaster, my first priority was food. So I headed towards the nearest kebab shop to finally refuel myself. So with the bike finally shifting smoothly, I pushed on for another 2 hours toward a bivouac spot I'd been told about.
Help. Can I help you?
I felt so good about the repair that I even stopped to help a guy who was struggling to push his scooter up. The next morning, Ian was hit by one of the most spectacular views of the entire trip. I was perched right on the edge of a massive cliff near Rumkale, overlooking the Euphrates River. Down, Rumkale, which means Roman castle, is perched on a massive shore promontory where the Merzimen River meets the Euphrates. Tradition says that St. John lived here during the Roman period and hid his copies of the New Testament in the rocks. And it was a strategic stronghold for the Crusaders, because the cliffs are so steep that they were considered impossible to climb. Before the Biricik Dam was built in the 90s, the castle sat high above a narrow rushing river valley. When the valley was flooded, several villages around the castle were submerged. Today, if you look closely, you can still see the top of an abandoned minaret. I wasn't really in a rush this morning, so I had the time for a real breakfast, and I was craving for a French breakfast. Making bread isn't actually that complicated. It's just about the timing, and you have to get the consistency of the dough right enough. So I mixed my flour and water and let the dough rest while I got to work. I had a great connection out here on the cliffs, so I spent a few hours catching up on my laptop before packing down the tent. By the time the camp was packed, the dough was ready. So I rolled the dough into small balls and melted some butter in my pan to keep them from sticking. The trick with campfire cooking is waiting for the flames to die down. The flames are actually too hot. They'll burn the outside of the dough before the inside is cooked. You need those steady glowing embers. As the fire was slowly fading out, the bread finished cooking. My grandmother gave me a jar of homemade jam just before I left France, and honestly, having that taste of home was pretty nice. Just as I was finishing breakfast, a police explained me that because of how close they were from the Syrian border, they had to check on anyone camping out.
Cylinders 2, I think.
So I finished packing the last of my gear and I was back on the road heading to Sanliurfa, or known as Urfa. After the mechanical nightmare and the emotional rollercoaster of the last 48 hours, I needed to chill for a bit. I needed a real shower, a bed that wasn't on the ground, and a chance to process everything that happened to me before final push east. Plus, Urfa, the city of the prophets, is a pretty interesting city to visit.
Teşekkür ederim. Alman mısın?
Ha,
Fransa.
Fransa.
Fransa. Hello.
So every time I stop, my first reflex is always the same: refuel, as I'm pretty much always in calorie deficit. So I went for the local food. In Urfa, they have this very specific kebab, I forgot how it's called, but it's this incredible dish with those thick chunks of eggplants layered with ground meat. The eggplants gets creamy and smoky, soaking up all the juice from the lamb. Then I headed into the heart of the old bazaar to find Gümrük Hani. It's an old Ottoman caravanserai, a massive stone courtyard surrounded by 2 stories of arched galleries. Back in the day, this was where the Silk Road merchants would park their camels and trade their goods. After the tea, I walked through the city and stocked up. Urfa is the land of pistachios, so I grabbed a bag from a street vendor. I also found these brioche-style breads covered in crushed pistachios, perfect snack for a road.
Okay.
22.
And of course, I got some patisserie for dessert.
Thank you.
Since I was planning on cooking at the B&B that night, I found a local butcher and bought a good amount of chicken for proteins. It cost nearly nothing here. Then I spotted some grapes at a fruit stall.
Yes. Very good.
And when I went to pay, the guy just waved my money away and gave them for free. Honestly, it's a recurring theme here.
It's good.
Thank you.
Teşekkür ederim.
Turkish hospitality always shows up when you're not looking for it. Then I went back at the B&B for some chicken curry. Life on the road also messes with your weight. You lose that sense of feeling full, you start skipping meals, and you just manage your provision badly. That's why these nights are vital. Stopping in Urfa was also about hitting the pause button and the constant challenge of the trip. Not worrying about the water management or finding a spot for the night, just a hot shower, a solid internet connection to catch up with the world, and a massive intake of calories. You need these moments to reset your brain and your body and reconnect. taking one night to focus on yourself isn't giving up on the adventure, it's just the only way to make sure you actually finish it. While I was busy cooking up that chicken I bought, I quickly realized I wasn't alone. It's actually pretty funny. Between looking for food and looking for cuddles, they get me company the whole evening. It's one of those things about Turkey. Cats are everywhere and people treat them with so much respect. Anyway, today was pretty perfect. No problems, no rush, a real bed and a fixed bike waiting outside.